Hello, it's me. Number 4. Mr. Buchanan was the 15th President of the United States from 1857 to 1861, and during his presidency, he made several decisions that contributed to the division of the United States just before the Civil War. First, let's talk about his decision to sign the Kansas-Nebraska Act. The Kansas-Nebraska Act was a law that allowed for the potential expansion of slavery into new territories. Prior to this act, slavery was prohibited in the territories north of the 36° north latitude line. But the Kansas-Nebraska Act allowed for the possibility of slavery in these territories by allowing the residents of these areas to vote on whether or not they wanted slavery. This went against the Missouri Compromise, which had been established in 1820 to maintain the balance between free and slave states. The Missouri Compromise had set the 36° north latitude line as the dividing line for slavery. Any territory acquired by the United States north of this line was to be admitted as a free state. However, the Kansas-Nebraska Act repealed this part of the Missouri Compromise, opening up the possibility of slavery in these territories. This was a major issue because it reopened the question of whether or not slavery would be allowed to spread into new territories. Supporters of slavery argued that since the United States had acquired these territories through war and purchase, they had the right to decide whether or not they wanted slavery. Opponents of slavery argued that slavery was a moral evil and should not be allowed to spread. The Kansas-Nebraska Act was a major contributing factor to the start of the Civil War, because it reopened the question of slavery in new territories and heightened tensions between the North and the South. Another thing that Mr. Buchanan did was he tried to appease the South by supporting the Dred Scott decision. In 1857, the Supreme Court issued a ruling in the Dred Scott case that further contributed to the sectional crisis. The Dred Scott decision was a ruling that stated that African Americans could not become citizens of the United States and that Congress did not have the power to prohibit slavery in the territories. The decision was handed down by a majority vote of 7-2, with the majority opinion written by Justice Roger B. Taney, who was pro-slavery. In the decision, Taney argued that African Americans were not considered citizens, and therefore did not have the right to sue in federal court. He also argued that Congress did not have the power to prohibit slavery in the territories. This was because, according to Taney, the Fifth Amendment's protection of private property included the right to own slaves. Therefore, Congress could not pass laws prohibiting slavery in the territories, because that would be a violation of the property rights of slave owners. The Dred Scott decision was a major blow to the anti-slavery movement, and it contributed to the growing sectional crisis. Many in the North felt that the court had been corrupted by pro-slavery justices, and that the decision was a threat to the institution of the presidency itself. Mr. Buchanan supported the decision, and in doing so alienated many in the North. And finally, Mr. Buchanan appointed pro-slavery judges to the Supreme Court. During his presidency, Mr. Buchanan appointed 4 justices to the Supreme Court, all of whom were pro-slavery. These appointments solidified the pro-slavery majority on the court and ensured that the Dred Scott decision would remain the law of the land. By appointing these judges, Mr. Buchanan was sending a message that he was committed to preserving slavery and would not tolerate any attempts to abolish it. This contributed to the growing sectional crisis and made the outbreak of the Civil War more likely. In conclusion, Mr. Buchanan made several decisions during his presidency that contributed to the division of the United States just before the Civil War. His support for the Kansas-Nebraska Act, his support for the Dred Scott decision, and his appointment of pro-slavery judges to the Supreme Court all contributed to the growing sectional crisis. As tensions between the North and the South continued to rise, it became clear that the country was divided, and a civil war seemed inevitable. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe.